Check, check. What is up, everybody?
Whoa.
Oh, my goodness.
Whoa.
We're feeling good, man. We're feeling real good. Feels good to be back on Inside the Crazy Ant Farm.
Hell yes.
Talk about everything that was going on in Hollywood news. Wait, we're talking about the biggest thing that's going on in Hollywood right now, which is DC coming out with their slate of stuff, man. From that video that James Gunn released, he got me excited. I'm excited.
And there's a reason we're devoting the entire industry news section to it. It's because they announced it Monday, right? The last day of January. They kept teasing January, but boy, they waited up to the last second. But every day since, more and more stuff has come out. So we're going to do everything to get you guys up to speed. We are going to give you all the facts. We are going to clear up all of the rumors that are not true. And then we're going to discuss what we think about it all. So, and you know us, we've got opinions, of course. Some good, some bad, some worry, some excitement. I think it's all just going to be amazing. You can tell, look at my cup, right? I'm super excited. Got my DC cup, got all of them. Superman, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, Flash. Yes, Flash. I know what you guys are thinking. Ezra Miller, what's happening there? Well, we've got some information about that. And some thoughts on that for sure. So we're so super excited. You know us, man. Anytime that we can geek out and talk about Marvel or DC or Star Wars or any of the cool stuff, you know, that we're just all in. And this is a really exciting industry news where we get to just dive deep into DC, which is going to be amazing.
Oh, for sure, man. For sure. I'm super pumped because getting introduced to a whole bunch of new characters, which is always exciting because you guys know I'm not the comic book person, but I love the film and television side. And they are able to bring to light so many characters that haven't really been talked about in the past before. So I'm really pumped for everything like that. But man, oh man, of course, you guys know how it works. We are going to do a promo first, and then we are going to lead right into the show and dive into all of the superhero mania. Okay. And I am going to do a slate because we're trying different camera angles. So I want to make sure we get it. All right. Okay. What's up, everybody? If you're watching this video right now, that means episode 217 of Inside the Crazy Ant Farm, talking all about DCU slate is available right now on YouTube and all podcast platforms.
Yes, Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, and we've got it all. We're going to dive deep into it. We're going to tell you everything that's fact. We're going to clear up all the rumors and tell you everything that's not true, and you will be set for the launch when it starts to all come together. We're so excited.
Oh boy, there's so much to dive into. We're super excited. That's why you have to listen to the show to get all of the information and all of our opinions about it. Because, I'm just saying, we got some pretty good opinions.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying. But like I said, guys, be sure to like and subscribe on all platforms. Fantastic.
Yes.
It's always good when we can do the promo in one take. It's always good. Sometimes we can't. But it's good. It's good. It's fine. Man,
wait.
I got this lighting looking good though.
We're human.
Fucking
it's fine.
Looks
human.
beautiful. I love how this light looks right now. All right. Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back. It is Saturday, and man, oh man, we have so much DC news to talk about. Oh my
gosh. R.I.P. DCEU. Long live forever, DCU. So yeah, oh my gosh, what does that mean? We're going to tell you absolutely everything, guys. We're going to clear it all up for you. You're going to know what to know, and you're going to know what to not know moving forward in the DC universe.
Everybody wants to know about the Trinity too. Everybody wants to know Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman. What's happening with all these characters? Well, we have all of that information for you right now. Well, let's get a little crazy. What's up, guys? 217, and we're back in action.
Hell yes.
That's right. Your host with the most, myself, J-Lo Fantastic, and the one and only Mal.
What's up?
Man, oh man, before we tease anything else, be sure to leave a rating on this podcast, comment below, and tell us what you actually think about this show, because leaving a rating actually helps the podcast with the algorithm getting seen by more people, especially those who love entertainment news or those who are trying to break into the entertainment industry.
Hell yes.
Oh man, there's a lot happening in Hollywood, especially with superheroes. But before we get this thing started, be sure to head over to our merchandise website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can start rocking the latest and greatest Crazy Ant Media gear. We got shirts, we got hats. By the next time we do this show, we should have coffee mugs to represent for each and every one of you, so that you can start sipping some coffee while listening to Inside the Crazy Ant Farm.
Yes.
So super excited about it, guys. But man, oh man, DCU. That's right. No E anymore. No E.
Nope. No.
This week's industry news will be completely devoted to the most talked about story in Hollywood, the new DCU, and what we think is going to be the best way to tell you about everything. And we're going to share our thoughts at the end. So let's jump right in. 3 months after James Gunn and Peter Safran officially started running the newly created DC
I can't believe
studios.
it's already been 3 months.
I know. I mean, time just flies, man. With Warner Brothers Discovery, the co-chiefs have finally announced the first 10 film and TV titles within the rebooted DC universe. Before we jump into the new projects, though, they did address current films that are set to release, like Shazam! Fury of the Gods, The Flash, Blue Beetle, Aquaman, and The Lost Kingdom. Now, those will all still be released and led directly into the new DCU.
Yeah, that's so we'll talk about that, because it's a little bit confusing, but we're going to talk about that.
Will.
Now, to build the overarching story for the new DCU, I thought this was a brilliant idea. James Gunn actually brought together a writer's room of Drew Goddard from Daredevil, the Netflix Daredevil, Jeremy Slater from Moon Knight, Christina Hobson from The Flash and Batgirl. Yes, that Batgirl. Crystal Henry from Watchmen, and then comic book writer Tom King from the Batman series of Brave and the Bold and Mr. Miracle. Now, Gunn indicated that at least some of these writers would continue working on DCU projects. What they came up with is the first stage of the rebooted cinematic universe, which will be called, are you ready? Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. I love this. So they're going away from phase like Marvel, right? Chapter, as in comic book chapter. I love that. I think it's a great name. Gunn and Safran's initial chapter will aim to tell one story across live action and animated movies, TV shows, and video games. Now, the plan is to release roughly 2 films and 2 TV series per year into the DCU. Now, Gunn and Safran revealed that no directors or actors have been attached to any projects, with the exception of Viola Davis, who will remain in her role as the immoral, self-imposed superintendent of the DC universe, Amanda Waller. Now, you guys know she originated the role in 2016 Suicide Squad. Safran and Gunn left the door open, however, for Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller, and Zachary Levi to continue playing their respective DC superheroes of Wonder Woman, Aquaman, The Flash, and Shazam. But Gunn reiterated that Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck will not continue as Superman and Batman. The exec said they will be casting new actors in those 2 roles.
So exactly what does all of this mean, and what does that mean when all of this happens? Well, Andy Muschietti from The Flash and It, which is scheduled to premiere in June 2023, the Flash movie that he directed, will effectively reset the DCU as fans currently know it, but according to Gunn, will not reset everything, though, meaning some characters will continue to be portrayed by the same actors in the forthcoming DC Universe projects, whereas others will be completely recast, like the ones you just mentioned, Affleck and Cavill.
Right. So, and what does that mean for Keaton's Batman? What does that mean for a bunch of different things? I love the idea. We know, and we'll dive deeper into this, but obviously, what they mean by the reset is it's going to be the Flashpoint storyline from the comic books, where he basically goes back to try to save his mother from being killed, and it just resets the timeline in the multiverse. And so this is their way of cleaning up all of the shit they don't want and keeping the stuff they do want, which I think is a really good idea. Now, here's a breakdown of details about the upcoming projects, and we'll start with the movies. First up is Superman Legacy. Now, it's set to open July 11th, 2025. Superman Legacy will mark the official start of the DCU, but will not be an origin story of the Man of Steel. Clark Kent will be about 25 years old and already living in Metropolis and working at the Daily Planet. He will also already be an established hero with a little bit of experience as Superman. The film will focus on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. He is the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. He is kindness in a world that thinks of kindness as old-fashioned. Gunn is writing the project and will likely, at least if Peter Safran has anything to say about it, end up directing it as well. So
that makes sense. This man has been posting like crazy on Twitter about Superman, so it only makes sense. Now, the Authority. Now, this one is very interesting. Superman Legacy will lead directly into The Authority, an ensemble movie about superhumans who have a less than idealistic approach to saving the world. The characters come from Wildstorm, which was launched in 1992 as an independent entity and were later folded into the main DC Comics universe when the company rebooted and is continually with the new 52 initiative in 2011. Now, Gunn said he and Safran intended to do the same thing with Wildstorm characters in the DCU. Now, the Authority is an ends justify the means superhero team who basically believe that you can't fix the world in an easy manner. And they take things into their own hands. Safran said, in quote, they're kind of like Jack Nicholson and A Few Good Men. They know that you want them on the wall, or at least they believe that. So I'm really excited about that. It kind of sounded like the Eternals a little bit, but in the sense of doing things their own way and what they think should be right on how to save the world.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've got some thoughts on what else it sounds like a little bit, but like I said, we're going to get all through this and then we'll dive into what we think or don't think about all of it. But I've got there's one other thing I think it reminds me of. Okay, so the next is The Brave and the Bold. Now, super excited about this. This film will serve as the introduction to the new Batman into the DCU. Along with introducing the DCU's version of Batman, The Brave and the Bold will also introduce the Bat family. First among them, Robin. Now, thank God, because Chris O'Donnell's way back Batman. So this will be the first time he's back in live action film since then. And this version of Robin is not going to be Dick Grayson. Instead, it's going to be Damian Wayne. Now, if you're not a comic book fan, Damian is Bruce Wayne's actual biological son, a fact unknown to Bruce for the first 8 to 10 years of Damian's life. Damian is an assassin and a murderer. Now, Gunn said the film will be a very strange sort of father and son story about the two of them.
Very interesting. We'll dive into that one. Supergirl, The Woman of Tomorrow, based on the comic book run of the same title from 2021's and 2022's Woman of Tomorrow, features Superman's cousin, Kara Zor-El, who is very different. He's a very different type of Supergirl. The film will highlight the difference between Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time he was an infant, versus Supergirl, who was raised on a rock chip off of Krypton, and watched everyone around her die and be killed in terrible ways for the first 14 years of her life. Now, Gunn said this Supergirl will be, quote, much more hardcore.
Damn. Yeah. Oh, it's so much to talk about on that one. All right. Next up, Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing will investigate the dark origins of Swamp Thing through the prism of horror. Now, little is known about the plot other than it's a much more horrific film, but we'll still have Swamp Thing interact with other characters in the DCU. How that's going to happen, I don't know. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Exactly. And now that's the movie side of it. Now here's the television side. We can start with Creature Commandos. This is an animated series for HBO Max. Is the very first project greenlit by Safran and Gunn, actually, who has written every single episode.
Of course he has.
The show is already in production. The group first appeared in comics in 1980 and featured Frankenstein's monster teaming up with a werewolf, a vampire, and a gorgon to fight Nazis in World War II. It's not clear if the series will take the same approach, but Gunn did confirm that Weasel from Suicide Squad is one of the commandos, alongside Rick Flag's father, Rick Flag Sr. Gunn. Gunn also said the actor to voice the characters on the show will also play the roles in the live action films later on in the DCU. So that's very exciting. That's something different that Marvel somewhat did, but kind of didn't at the same time.
Yeah, in the What If, right?
Yeah.
They took the act, but they did it reverse. They took the live action and voiced animation. Now he's going to do it the other way
I like
around.
that though.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. Interesting thoughts on that one too. I mean, boy, this is going to be fun to dive into it all. Next up is Waller. Now, with Gunn focused on Superman Legacy for the foreseeable future, season 2 of Peacemaker has been put on hold, but don't worry. Instead, Team Peacemaker will appear alongside Viola Davis's Amanda Waller as a continuation of Peacemaker, which ended with Waller's daughter, of course, Leota, outing the Task Force X, aka the Suicide Squad, and Waller's role running it in the world. Now, Waller will be executive produced by Crystal Henry alongside Jeremy Carver, who created the beloved DC series Doom Patrol, which was recently canceled by HBO Max. As James Gunn said, don't blame them. They didn't do that. Both Creature Commandos and Waller are expected to debut before Superman Legacy. So those are the official kickoff of the DCU. Superman Legacy is the first film in the DCU, just to clear that up.
For sure. Now, Lanterns, this is a live action series that will focus on 2 of the best known members of the Green Lanterns Corps. And now those are Hal Jordan and John Stewart, who investigate a mystery that plays a really big role into a main story that's being told across film and television. This project is separate from a Green Lantern series that was being developed by Greg Berlanti, which is now no longer moving forward.
Yeah.
That kind of sucks for him.
It does. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like once, I guess, Superman and Lois goes off the air, that's definitively the end of Greg Berlanti's run with the DC properties in the Arrowverse. So, but we'll talk about that too. There's some news about that too.
For sure.
Paradise Lost is up next. Now, this one sounds super fucking exciting to me. This Game of Thrones-ish story is set on the island of Themyscira and Paradise Island for all those who don't know, and will follow a civil war on Themyscira before the birth of Diana, aka Wonder Woman. It's about the political intrigue behind a society of all women. How did that come about? What's the origin of the island of all women? What are the beautiful truths and the ugly truths behind all of that? And what's the scheming like between the different power players in that society? So we're going to learn the nature of the island. Where are all the men? How did it become an island of all? I love that. I think that's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm interested about that one. Now, finally, Booster Gold. Now, while he may not be familiar to casual fans of DC, the character, also known as Mike Carter, is a fan favorite among devoted comic book readers. In the 25th century, Mike is a disgraced former football star who uses a time machine on display in the Metropolis Space Museum to come back to today and pretend to be a superhero. Basically, Booster Gold is a imposter who tries to be a superhero. He's got that little imposter syndrome, you know?
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah. He
interested.
is a really popular and yeah, we'll talk about that because he is really popular in the comic books, y'all. So the big question is, what did we not talk about right there, right? Where does that leave other DC projects like Matt Reeves' The Batman franchise, Todd Phillips' The Joker franchise, the animated series Teen Titans Go, and what about HBO Max's Harley Quinn? Well, Gunn and Safran confirmed that they will move forward under the banner of Elseworlds projects. Now, if you're a comic book fan, you know what this means. That's the name used in DC Comics to denote out of continuity multiverse stories, meaning these will take place outside of the DCU.
Yeah.
So,
And
I mean, there you go.
it's very interesting too because there are a whole bunch of these different stories swirling around. And it's nice to get some clarification because we've always been like, get your shit together.
Yeah.
Well, Gunn and Safran confirmed that Todd Phillips' Joker, Foule Edru, goodness,
Well done.
with Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga is set to release October 4th of 2024, and that Robert Pattinson's Batman Return is set to hit theaters October 3rd of 2025 and will be titled The Batman Part 2. Additional information for the films, including plot synopsis, remain under wraps for now. Reeves is also gearing up to shoot the spin-off series centered on Colin Farrell's The Penguin character. So I guess that one also falls into Elseworld.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep. And this one likely will fall into Elseworld as well. We also know that a separate Superman movie produced by J.J. Abrams and written by Tanishi Coates remains in active development. Gunn and Safran said they are eagerly awaiting a draft of Coates' screenplay. Now, this one could indeed touch on the Black Superman. So I think that that's probably a good idea, but will almost wholeheartedly fall into the Elseworld category. So,
Oh, for sure, man, for sure. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot to dive into, and there's a lot of stuff that, when he was talking about it, I was getting excited because there's some characters that I have absolutely no idea about. But I think we should start with the elephant in the room, and that is Ezra Miller having the possibility to come back.
yeah, so I get it. They're using the Flash movie as the reset, right? So it's kind of odd to just then recast. What is he going to do? Reset himself? So it's kind of odd to recast the character if he is going to be the focal point of resetting the universe. They were asked about Ezra Miller at this press conference, and they said they are working really hard towards their recovery. They seem to be all in on getting better, and they do see themselves returning when they're ready to filmmaking and the franchise. And Gunn and Safran made it clear that they believe that Miller is indeed getting better and that it's a wait and see game at this point. The option is on the table, but it's still it sounds like to me contingent upon whether Ezra will follow through on and actually get better. But Gunn and Safran seem to say at this press conference that they have met with him at least a few times and see progress and see that he is working hard on his mental health and trying to get better. So,
Yeah, I don't necessarily see it as a bad decision because everybody deserves a second chance. DC is literally built off of second chances because of James Gunn, obviously that whole
yeah,
situation with Disney and Guardians of the Galaxy, and I just feel like I don't know. I don't mind him staying as the character. Let me put that out first and foremost. I don't mind him staying as the character. I still cannot go see this film in theaters because of the back end points that he will receive because he shot this film either during or prior to all of this hellacious shit that he had come out, and it was very hellacious. And personally, I would like to see him do more charitable work, be more out there, take the Robert Downey Jr. journey, I guess we could say, and start being out there, show the world who you could be and show the world that you're not this person who you are perceived to be. So I think he really has a lot of soul searching to do. Of course, he should do it for himself first, but
yeah,
then after that, he needs to publicly do that as well.
I
I
agree.
think that's the way he's going to earn back a lot of people's respect and love. But yeah, it's a very interesting situation. I still can't go see the Flash film in theater. I'll have to wait until HBO Max. But like I said, I'm not opposed to the situation because everybody fucks up. We're all human, and especially if there's medication involved and mental illness, like we said. But yeah, I'm very curious to see how this whole situation moves forward because it is a lot. It is dirty. It is grimy, but everybody deserves the second chance. I agree.
Yeah, and apparently critics, test audiences, executives, fans, anybody who has seen this film have all agreed it's one of the greatest superhero films ever made and is at like a stellar level of filmmaking. So that's a lot to live up to. And
It
so
is.
I hope that it is that good. I hope it is a definitive reset of the DCU that they can build off of. Now, so Wonder Woman and Jason Momoa, right? You heard that Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot. Apparently, they've talked to Gal Gadot, and she is wanting to come back as Wonder Woman. She's willing to come back as Wonder Woman, but they had nothing great to say about Wonder Woman 1984.
Mm.
They thought it didn't even play into the original Wonder Woman and just completely failed the franchise and fucked up Wonder Woman in every way possible. Now, they like Gal Gadot, but they have no plans of moving forward with anything previously made with Wonder Woman. So what does that mean? Will she come in and be like after the Paradise Lost storyline, and go from there?
I don't necessarily disagree with any of that.
No, I don't
So,
either.
yeah.
So I like all that, and I like that they're going to tell the story of the Amazons prior to us seeing Wonder Woman again.
Yeah.
It's not like Gal Gadot is getting old. She's great. She'll still be a wonderful
Oh, yeah.
Wonder Woman no matter when they decide to pop her back up. Momoa, they said when they addressed Jason Momoa that obviously Aquaman 2 is coming out and it will play directly into the beginning of the DCU. Now, they said that Momoa has always thought of Aquaman as a trilogy. They kind of agree with that, but it's going to have to see on the success of Aquaman 2. And then there's been rumors, right? Because we want to dispel any of the rumors out there. There have been a lot of rumors out there that they were bailing on Momoa playing Aquaman so that he could play Lobo, which is kind of like a space biker. He's kind of a badass that goes around and fights a lot of people, like, kind of a thing, which, I mean, Momoa would be fantastic at. But they cleared that up real quick, saying none of our actors will play more than one character. So either that means Aquaman will end after Aquaman 2 and Momoa will become another character, maybe Lobo, or somebody else will be Lobo and he will continue on as Aquaman. Either way, Momoa seems to be staying in the DCU. So one way or the other. Zachary Levi. They talked about Zachary Levi. And so Shazam, right? It's coming out like right around the corner, y'all. He will be part of the DCU, but they don't know when or how. According to Safran, who obviously is the producer on the Shazam movies, they just haven't figured out how to work him into the new DCU yet. So he will likely be around. He will show up again. They just don't know when or how because they're trying to figure that out. So that takes care of Flash, that takes care of Wonder Woman, that takes care of Aquaman, that takes care of Shazam. Now, what about Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck? Well, Henry Cavill, it was all over the place, and I'm sure you guys have heard that he was fired, unceremoniously let go. They hated him, they didn't like him, they didn't want any part of him. Safran and Gunn both said absolutely not true. They met with Cavill, they discussed their plans for the future of Superman, and explained to him that he just didn't fit into the future of what they were trying to do with Superman because he was too old and that they were moving in a different direction. It had nothing to do whether they liked Cavill or not or didn't want Cavill or not. It's just they were moving in a different direction where Superman was significantly younger and they needed to recast. Simple as that. Ben Affleck. will not be moving forward as Batman because of the same reason. They are recasting at a much younger Batman. However, he will be, they have confirmed this, at least a few years older than the new Superman. So as we told you, the new Superman's going to be about 25. We're gathering from that maybe the new Batman will likely be around 30, which makes sense because he's got a 10-year-old son, or between 10 and 13 with Damian. So 30 seems about right. Now Affleck's role in the DCU, though, is not over. Apparently, they are talking to him, and he has expressed interest in wanting to direct a DCU project. That whether that's the Brave and the Bold film or something completely away from Batman or whatever, we do not know. But he's not walking away from the DCU. He's just not going to be in front of the camera on the DCU. I like all of this. I think that that's the right decision on all of that.
I agree, because I mean, despite like our own personal opinions, Affleck and Cavill, those were the two that a lot of people had mixed feelings about. So, I mean, it makes sense that, especially with going in this new direction with the youngerness, like it makes sense not even, trying to entertain the idea of bringing them back as those characters. And it seems like everything was separated amicably, like sitting them all both down and having conversations about, hey, this is our plan. This isn't really how we're working. But yeah, I mean, that just makes complete sense. And I love how, everybody is still in conversations for, Shazam, trying to figure that situation out, and Gal and Jason. So, I mean, just trying to navigate everything, especially with those three characters, I feel like is very, very special, because those three films are very beloved by the fans. Take away the second Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and I like the idea that they're taking their time,
Yeah,
and figuring out how and when to place Wonder Woman and Shazam and Flash and Aquaman, because they don't want to just run and gun and just throw them in there because they have them. They want to make sure it fits the story right and makes sense with where they show
that's
up.
been the last decade of the DC universe, so I think they are learning very great from their predecessor. So it only makes complete sense. I mean, I'm really surprised with what they're doing and what they came out with, because we were very like taken back by all these cancellations. What are they doing? What are they not doing? And so I'm very excited. One specifically, because I know you and I have talked about this a lot. Superman never really was like a big superhero to me. Like, I understand that he's the pinnacle, he's the one that they all look up to, he's the superhero of all superheroes. I know all that, but for me, I've never seen a Superman that I'm just like, that's the guy. That's the guy right there. So, I mean, I'm really excited to see what they do with this new Superman legacy film, and to see how they play into that. And, I think it's going to be a great turn of the leaf, because Superman is supposed to be the pinnacle, the guy you're supposed to look up to.
So I think it's the absolute right decision that Superman Legacy will be the kickoff film in the DCU,
for sure,
as it should be. Because look, there is no denying. Kevin Feige has said it, Jeff Johns has said it, James Gunn has said it. Basically, anybody who's anybody in the comic book and film industry has said that Superman the movie is the bar. It's the one they all want to be. It's the level that they all attain to reach. He is the definitive Superman, and everything that he stood for. Hence why I think that James Gunn wasn't scared to say he's the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. Remember, they tried to change that up a little bit ago, and that didn't go over well. So I don't think Gunn was scared to say it, because that is what the Christopher Reeve Superman was. There's a reason why all these filmmakers on these superhero films try to attain that level, because that's the standard of what they feel Superman should be. And so it only makes sense. I mean, I was an 8-year-old kid when that movie first came out, and the tagline was, "You'll believe a man can fly." It was this thing where you believed in the embodiment of what this man stood for. So the idea of making this the first film into the DCU, I think it's a brilliant idea. And I think naming it Legacy, it's clear what they're intending to do. They're intending to reestablish that legacy of Superman and what it meant to comic books fans, comic book films, comic book television, everything that Superman had ever been. They want to reestablish that. And so I think this is a fantastic idea
Mhm.
of and way of doing it. I will say this, they did say that they are fans of Superman and Lois, so much so that even though it's taking place completely different and it is in no way, shape, or form part of the DCU or the Elseworld stuff, it will continue for another 1 to 2 seasons because they want to wrap it up properly and give it the send off that it deserved because they are such fans of the show and how the characters are portrayed in that show. So kudos to them for that. Which also goes into Titans and Doom Patrol. They were fans of those shows as well and were not the ones responsible for canceling those shows. They're taking a lot of heat for that, but they did not. That decision was made prior to them being announced as the heads of DC Films. So get over that. They did not cancel those shows. They did say that they loved those shows and loved the interpretation of the characters on those shows. So I want to talk about that for just a minute because I think, especially in Titans, I mean, I love Doom Patrol and I love all the actors on Doom Patrol. I think they did a fantastic job, but especially on Titans, I think the cast that they chose for that show and the interpretation of the characters and the performances of those characters was spot on. That's the very first comic book I ever bought was the New Teen Titans, 1980. I was 10 years old. I was all in on that. And I think that it just captured everything that what the Titans are supposed to be. And it is my sincerest hope that they move forward, if not with all of that cast, at least some of that cast in those characters. Because here's why not everybody had HBO Max. It started off on DC Universe, right? So if you didn't have DC Universe, you probably didn't watch it on HBO Max because you probably never heard of it or even know what it was. So that means when you introduce these people into the DCU now, they'll be brand new to most of the viewers, to most of the fans. So it's not like they'll have it'll still be fresh and new to most of those people, even with those continued actors. And I think Dick Grayson, Nightwing, okay? It's clear from The Brave and the Bold with Damian Wayne being the Robin, and they're establishing him at somewhere between 10 and 13 years old, that Dick is already Nightwing. He's clearly already in that stage. He's not Robin. And if that is the case, and he's around, I'm going to guess around 20, 21, because he's got to be significantly older than Damian. Brendan Thwaites is perfect. I mean, he's still a great Dick Grayson and a great Nightwing and right around the right age to play the character, in my opinion. And they've said that they're going to introduce the entire Bat family, which means Batgirl and Nightwing and Red Hood and Tim Drake's Robin. And all of those are going to be introduced. So just my opinion, I think that a lot of the Titans, and I would love to see the Titans, the Teen Titans, get another series and or a film because I think it would be badass. I mean, anyway, that's my opinion on all that. What do you think?
Oh, I get a second. I'm very excited about the progression that the characters made in that one. I think this show is a definitive show to show you that DC can be successful while being dark.
Yeah, yeah.
Because a lot of the flack and a lot of the opinions about the DC movies were that they were too dark, they were too campy. Well, this show is dark and campy, but it's successful. And that comes directly to the writer's room and the producers. They do such an amazing job at storytelling and bringing you all of these different characters and emotions and backgrounds and just the realness of these stories. I feel like is so important with the movies. I always felt like I'm watching a movie. This kind of is fake. It's hard to kind of connect with films if you're not completely like all right, this is sci-fi and I got to expand my mind a little bit. But with these, this could for sure happen in real day life. So I feel like that's why they were so successful, because they made these shows real. And I think that's very important. I think that's a note that James Gunn and Safran are taking from shows like Titans and Doom Patrol, like making them more real, but also adding that superpower flavor into it as well, because that's very important. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I'm thinking because it would be nice, but I think of what's his face as like 25, and I don't know how that would work into the storyline, but he definitely would be a great Nightwing again. I would love to see him. He played the character absolutely perfectly, and I mean the girl that played Raven, Starfire, basically the core four. The
Yeah.
core four, I feel like, are so spot on and so good that it's sad to see them go. And if there is areas to bring them back, I think you should. But yeah, that's my opinions on those shows that are going away. And I mean, I'm very interested to see how they approach those situations.
Me too. And because for anybody who's a fan of the comic books and familiar with the Damian Wayne storyline, he first suits up and partners, as Robin with Nightwing
Yeah.
before partnering with Batman. So because Batman didn't really want to bring him out and have him, after the whole Jason Todd, the whole kind of thing. So he partnered with Nightwing first, and Dick taught him to be Robin, right? Because if you guys don't know, so his mother is Tyler Ra's al Ghul, right? So I mean Tyler al Ghul, Ra's al Ghul's daughter. So that's who his mother is, and she lied to Bruce and said that she had a miscarriage, and then kept the baby from him for all those years. And he was basically raised by the League of Assassins, and was killing people and was an assassin, even though he's only like 10 years old. And she drops him back off at the doorstep of Bruce and says, by the way, this is your kid, when he's 10 years old. So that's kind of like the storyline of it. And he's an asshole. He's mad at Bruce. He wants no part of Bruce because he felt abandoned by him. The goal was Ra's al Ghul wanted him to replace Batman and become the new head of the League of Assassins and eventually carry on the Ra's al Ghul's fate. And so that didn't kind of happen, but obviously that was the goal at first. And then he learns to, I guess, adapt with Batman, and Bruce learns to become, okay, this is my son and I do love him, even though he's a handful and fucking crazy. You gotta deal with this. But my point, going back to, I wonder if at the end of that movie, do we see Nightwing introduced, and maybe the next film, would be the Nightwing and Damian film for that training before we see it move on from there. Not only would that be a great way to show that comic book storyline and how he learns to be Robin to go back to Batman, but it would also be the first glimpse at Nightwing, which could eventually lead to a Titans film or whatever. I just think that that's kind of the right way to do it. And to touch on your point about the Titans working so well being dark, I think that the Authority that we talked about might be their testing ground for whether they can get away with that. I think this thing reminds me of The Boys, where it's a superhero group that kind of doesn't fall within the parameters of how superheroes do it. They take things into their own hands. Sometimes they break laws. Sometimes they kill people. Sometimes they, I kind of feel like, they believe what they're doing is right, even though they sometimes abuse the power that they have as superheroes. And so maybe that's their little testing ground into, can we get away with some of the dark stuff or not? Or do we have to stray completely on the straight and narrow path of,
So are they kind of
darkness?
like anti-heroes in the comic books, or like how does everybody else perceive them?
Yes. So let's put it this way, right? If Superman is standing for truth, justice, and the American way, and everything that embodies that with kindness, he certainly has a problem with the Authority's methods and how they handle it, right? So yeah, they're kind of like anti-heroes. They get the job done, but not everybody likes the way they do it, including some of the other superheroes don't really like the way they're doing it. Speaking of, that's a good transition just to mention, because we didn't bring it up. Dwayne Johnson did say he's kind of mellowed. He's kind of pulled back his attack a little bit on how everything went down. And he said that he is open to returning as Black Adam in the DCU whenever James Gunn and Safran would want that to happen, and however they feel that he fits best into what they're trying to do, because he loves DC, he loves the character, and he believes that maybe they're going to do the right thing and get this thing back on track. So now he is saying he is open at whatever point down the line to return as Black Adam. I think that's probably a smart move. I think at some point maybe we will see that, but they just have to kind of figure out how that's going to go.
Yeah, most definitely. It's going to be interesting to see how all of that moves forward because I mean, Rock's getting up there. So I
Well,
don't.
I mean, true.
Yeah, I mean,
True.
if it's not within the next 10 years, I don't see it
Yeah,
happening.
I
To
don't know.
be
We'll
honest,
see.
or at least it's setting a plan in place within the next 10 years. But we'll see. We'll see. This next one, I'm super curious about because I just said I wasn't really a big fan of Superman and am waiting to be blown away. And now, like, being a cousin of that situation, I don't know what to expect of a Supergirl movie either. So I'm this one's all you because I don't know what to expect.
Well, so this one is not the same version as what everybody fell in love with Melissa Benoist on TV in the Arrowverse, where she was raised on Earth by a family similar to her cousin. This is going the other route. This comic book, actually, it's funny because all of the Brave and the Bold and Woman of Tomorrow, Swamp Thing, several of these comic books that they cited as their inspiration for these films sold out. All sold out within days after the announcements. Gunn said he talked to Jim Lee and he said, we're publishing more. They're coming back. Everybody will be able to get them. But this storyline, it is a very different. She's almost bitter and jealous
Mm.
of her cousin at this point because this is kind of like an asteroid section of Krypton that kind of was floating in space and never did, and a small group of Kryptonians were able to survive, and this is where she grew up, and it was nasty, it was dark, everybody was fighting for survival, it was more evil than good. She didn't have the loving Kansas parents, and the farmland, and so, and like the description said, she saw everybody around her die and get killed in terrible ways until she was like 14 and finally made it to Earth. So she's far more bitter. She's far more edgy. She's not scared to use her power, right? And she fits, in my opinion, in this storyline a bit more with like the Authority. She
Mm.
does what she has to do to survive, and if that means sometimes going outside of the realm of what is perceived as super heroic, then she does that. And so that, of course, causes conflict with her cousin.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I
So
feel like, with you saying that and with what James Gunn was describing the Superman Legacy film, I feel like there might be a lot of matchups between these two, at least every once in a while. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see how that's portrayed.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I wonder if they go into the casting decisions as like, all right, do these two look alike? I feel like that's going to be very important too,
Well,
or at least have chemistry.
Yeah, and we do know, as far as everything we've read, as far as everything Gunn is confirmed or not confirmed, that the woman playing Supergirl in the Flash film not moving forward.
Mm.
So she will be one of those reset and recast. It will not be this Supergirl. So there you go.
I feel like that's hard to be heard too, because it's like, here, one and done. Boom, you're done.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean,
so,
that sucks, but it
yeah,
is what it is.
for
So
sure. I'm excited about this next one too, because like I know it was only for one season on DCUniverse.com, but Swamp Thing, I feel like
yeah.
this is a very, off branch version of everything going on with the dark side of society. And I feel like, it's going to be very interesting to see how they approach it. And you said it's going to be kind of like the series was on
Well,
DC Universe.
so there's been many incarnations of this character with all different, from the time he debuted all the way up till recent times. He's had different names, he's had different backstories, he's had different, origins of how he became that and all this kind of thing. But I think that the storyline of Abby Arcane, and so her father was one of the bad guys of Swamp Thing, right? The villain of the Swamp Thing story, and was basically responsible for turning the other professor or scientist into Swamp Thing. I think his
Mm.
name is Howl. Um, I think that is the storyline that we're probably going to see, and Abby Arcane will fall in love with Howl again as Swamp Thing, and they'll try to solve the murder of what happened and how he became that. And I think in my opinion, it's the best version of the character. And I would hope that if he is going to be interacting with other characters, they need to humanize him a bit, not have him this horrific, scarred, vegetable type looking swamp thing. They need to at least have a human characteristic or quality to him. And I think that storyline is the way to do it, is to have the love story between him and Abby Arcane and kind of go that route. So I'm hoping, I don't know. I'm not putting anything out because, like I said, we have no definitive plot details or what that's going to be. I think that, in my opinion, that's the best version of the character in the comic books. And I liked the Swamp Thing series. So I hope that that's the route they go.
For sure, for
So,
sure. And I mean, the television side, I feel like, also brings a lot of heavy hitters.
oh, without doubt.
And I feel like they definitely, especially on the animated side, they take a huge note from how successful Harley Quinn was
Mm.
and the adult rated darker interpretations, especially with this Creature Commandos one. I'm very curious to see how this is all approached. I mean, I could see Swamp Thing popping up in something like this too.
Potentially. I
Yeah,
mean,
because but and then it's going to be interesting too if it's going to be like, are they fighting Nazis in 1980s? Like, or back in time where Nazis were around? Not
Yeah,
1980s.
yeah. Well, I'm kind of thinking it is going to be set. I don't know necessarily about Nazis, but I do think it's going to be set maybe in an earlier time just because they said Flag Senior,
Mm,
right? So the Suicide Squad flag that we've seen, Rick Flag,
yeah,
has been current time. So Daddy would imply that this is going to take place a little bit earlier than that. I don't know if it's going to jump all the way back to World War II Nazi times,
right.
but potentially, obviously, an earlier incarnation. So that since we're going to see the senior flag. So I am interested in that. I do like how they're going to have Weasel in it and kind
Mhm.
of connect the universes going forward. Um I think that Creature Commandos is James Gunn's attempt for DC's Guardians of the Galaxy. This is a very obscure, weird group of
Yeah,
monsters that are kind of like nobody really knows.
yeah.
And so how can we put them out there and kind of have these characters and make them popular? And I think that that's going to be the first attempt at it, right?
For sure.
Um
And I mean, everybody was curious too, because Peacemaker was so successful on HBO Max. And yes, we are still waiting on season 2, but I'm happy to see the gang coming back in Waller. I feel like that's going to be very, very integral, of course, to how Waller approaches everything, because she's a little shady.
yeah.
And we all know that that whole team is also a little shady, but also tries to do the right thing. So I just love how they're bringing back that team. And I mean, of course, I'm so happy to see John Cena returning to the role because that's my guy.
Yeah, I mean, since they're defining this as a continuation of the Peacemaker season 1, clearly I think that that's implying that the majority of the cast, the same actors,
Yeah.
will be back. Even though they've only confirmed Viola Davis,
Yeah.
I would have to think if this is a continuation, that's a clear sign that they're moving forward with the other actors as well. I can't possibly imagine them recasting Peacemaker. That just
Exactly.
doesn't make sense. And I guess in essence, this will be a Peacemaker season 2,
Yeah,
if you
right.
will,
It's
right?
kind of like Book of
It's
Boba Fett.
yeah, exactly. It's going to be the bridge between, the next season of Peacemaker, whenever that will be. Because clearly it's not anytime soon since he's writing Superman and probably directing Superman.
Literally.
Um, this one, super pumped about because I was not cool with them developing a Green Lantern series without the most famous Green Lantern of them all, Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
How do you even do that? So apparently they agreed and didn't think you should do that either. So I was thrilled when they said the Lanterns was going to be Hal Jordan and John Stewart. It's the two, in my opinion, probably most popular Green Lanterns. You did have Kyle Rayner, you do have Guy Gardner, Alan Scott, the original Golden Age Green Lantern. But I really do feel like modern day, most people agree that Hal Jordan and John Stewart are the definitive Green Lanterns,
For
and they're
sure.
Earth's Green Lanterns. So while this is going to be kind of a mystery type, who done it series, which I guess they're saying connects the big storyline
Mm,
in chapter 1,
yeah.
like the payoff at the end of chapter 1. This is the series that's somehow going to be dropping Easter eggs or clues that's going to definitively bring all of them together into the big payoff. So super excited about it.
Yeah, this is my most anticipated one. This one and the next one because I just feel like it's going to be very interesting to see these two because they're basically like police officers, detectives of the universe of the world, trying to figure out this crime and this overall story arc. So I think it's going to be very freaking interesting. It'd also be funny if they brought in another Green Lantern from another world that was voiced by Ryan Reynolds. I think that would be hilarious.
Maybe, possibly.
I mean, you never know.
But the way you described it is perfect because that's exactly what the Green Lantern Corps is. They're basically the policemen of the universe, and everybody has a sector, and like I said, Hal Jordan and John Stewart are the Green Lantern of Earth and this sector of the universe, and then the Corps has Green Lanterns assigned to all of the different sectors. So
the only thing I'm sad about is Diggle not becoming Green Lantern. I mean, that man, he deserved his shit, man. He deserved it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it would be hard. I think they're probably going to stray away from it because I don't think they want anybody to be confused with the Arrowverse. But David Ramsey would make an awesome John Stewart.
Yeah.
Which is everybody thought that's who John Diggle was actually. So I don't know. This next one though, I am kind of really super excited about. Also, I love that they described it as Game of Thrones-ish because can you tell a story of Amazon Island, Paradise Island and the Amazons and Themyscira without referencing the gods and showing the gods? Because that they're basically a creation of the gods. Wonder Woman for sure is molded, and that will they go that route? Will she be molded out of clay and dirt and turned into, life like through the gods like it was? So I'm extremely excited to see how this war plays out. And will this civil war type thing be between the men and the women and how inevitably it becomes an all woman island? Like, is that how it's all going to play out? Super pumped about that.
For sure. Me too. And I mean, I love that it's kind of a period piece because you go back in time and you see, I hope you see like the start of it, how
without
like
doubt.
everything is formed and how, I mean, I'm assuming we'll see like maybe Diana's mom or the mother figure.
Oh yeah. Queen Hippolyta has to, I feel like that's gotta be part of it because, and they're Amazons and they they age long,
Right.
so of course we can see them and they would still be around in modern times, right? Just like Wonder Woman. So it'll be interesting to see. Like you said, I think that's going to be that's popular genre right now.
Yeah.
The Games of Thrones kind of like old school Greece gods kind of a thing.
It is.
So I think that it's a great idea to add that into the storyline of it's going to be awesome.
I'm not gonna lie. This next one, Booster Gold, it kind of sounds like a comedy. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of ringers in that one.
Yeah, no, I think this one will wholeheartedly be a comedy, and I think in some way, shape, or form, because it definitely happened in the comic books. Blue Beetle and Booster Gold will at some point team up. They do in the comic books. In fact they had a little series, if I'm not mistaken, of the two of them together in their own series. And so, they said that while Blue Beetle is a standalone film, it is a part of the DCU. So could we see? And I hope that they didn't mention him by name, but I'm pretty sure that they are planning on keeping him, the same actor playing him. Because I can't imagine them ditching him, because from everything I've read and from what everything Gunn and Safran have said, it's testing really well and it looks like it's going to be a huge hit. So, but to have Booster Gold play into that is going to be awesome. And this is a guy that figures out how to use this machine to go back in time, and he basically becomes a superhero because he knows everything that's going to happen.
Exactly.
So he's able to thwart all these crimes because he knows that they're going to happen and he knows what's going to happen. So he knows how to stop it. And so he's pretending to be this superhero that's amazingly stopping all this shit. It's because he knows how it's going to go down. And that's how. So I think it's going to be a really great addition, and we do get that little bit of a comic relief from it all. So, I think that's really cool.
For sure. And as far as, the films in Elseworld, I'm still very excited about the Batman Part 2. I mean, I feel like, Matt Reeves is on a roll with that one.
Oh, for sure.
I know it's probably going to be a couple years before we even see that thing. So that's going to kind of suck. I'm not going to go see the Joker movie. I know you probably will.
I'll see it, but I'm not a fan of it. I don't think it needs to be a musical. I don't think that Lady Gaga should be playing Harley Quinn. I'm just not. I loved the first one, and they should have just left it at that. Um, I think this one's a mistake, and we'll see. I just think it's not good.
Yeah.
I would like to see Matt Reeves further look into and bring out that Joker character.
Yeah.
That seemed like a very interesting story. I know they said they don't want to address Joker right away in Matt Reeves's Batman because it's everybody does Joker, and so I think they're going to go a different route with some of the villains. But
Freeze.
we will eventually, I feel like, see the Joker in that storyline, and so I'm excited for that. I
For
really
sure.
am.
A lot of good things, man. A lot of good things. We are actually excited about DC.
I know, right?
I'm
Like,
happy to
woo!
say that. Like, and it's not just one thing because I felt like before in the past it was just going to be I'm excited for this, but I'm going to have to watch this to stay in the storyline with everything. But now like there's multiple things that I'm actually pretty freaking pumped about. So, I mean, I'm not going to give credit to Zaslav, but I'm going to give credit to Gunn. So, and Safran. So, like I said, I'm pumped, man, and I haven't been able to say that about a DC film in a very long time.
Yeah, and I think the smartest thing they did, because some of the biggest confusion was how the fuck do we have like 18 Batmans and 47 Supermans and all this? So to definitively say Elseworld outside of the DCU,
Exactly.
separate thing. So there's no confusion now. It won't open with the DC Studios banner. It's going to open with Elseworlds banner, and you're going to know this is not a part of what you're doing. We should also quickly mention, because you heard us talk about that, part of the plan includes video games.
Yeah.
So they are developing new DC video games that will fit directly into the story that is being told through the films and television. Now, somebody asked Gunn, well, what if I don't play video games? And what if I don't buy any of those?
Right.
Will I still be able to follow along with just the films and TV? He said, yes, absolutely. Don't worry about it. But he did say that the video games would have stories that would act as bridges to bridge the gap between movies and TV. So I guess that they'll have little, and yeah, I mean, like any geek, you could go and probably find Easter eggs and find out what the video game story was and how it connects to a TV show or a movie. But he said that won't be necessary. So don't worry about it. If you're not a gamer, if you're not into the superhero games, you won't need to have those in order to follow along with the storyline. So.
Yeah, how I think they're going to do it is it's going to kind of be like this Harley Quinn's Valentine movie that's about to come out, where it's kind of like a standalone thing, but it also helps to kind of put in retrospect what's going on.
Yeah.
Like not necessary, but also it's kind of nice.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
but yeah, man, like I said, super excited about that. Super freaking happy. Well, now we're on to the top 5 segment. And this week it is top 5 TV shows that would have been better movies. And it's very interesting and very different perspectives, I feel like, from both of us. But man, the number 5 for both of us, we're like-minded. So that goes to The Patient. That was a Hulu original. Very good. Don't get me wrong. Very good. But at some points it did drag a little bit. And I felt like it would have just been better, a nice flowing film.
Yeah,
you know?
psychological thriller told in 2 hours. I think it would have been really great.
Yeah.
Keep all the same performers. They
for
were
sure.
freaking phenomenal and scary as shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, there I felt like there was a couple of gap episodes that just drug and weren't necessary. So you could have consolidated it down into like a whodunit, thriller type 2-hour movie, and I think it would have been awesome.
I completely agree. Number 4 for me, and I don't know if you feel this way, but it's Cobra Kai. Netflix's Cobra Kai. I feel like each season could have been like its own movie, to be honest. Especially the first season that dropped on Netflix, which I believe was season 2 or 3. It was just, something special. And I feel like the further it progressed, like we said, it got more and more cheesy and a little stale. So I felt like if it got consolidated a little bit, it would have been better for audiences' enjoyment. But overall, I mean, they're still rocking and rolling. People still love the series. But for personal preference, I feel like it would have just been better as multiple films. And you might have made more money from that way too.
I mean, maybe. Who knows? Who knows? I kind of feel the same way about mine. Number 4, the Book of Boba Fett. I thought I like the idea of, learning what happened to him, finding out he's not dead, what's kind of going down. But I thought the series was kind of a fail because it was literally just here, watch this while we're doing to the next season of The Mandalorian. And I felt like that's what it was. It was just a gap show to hold you over until they finished production on the next season of The Mandalorian. It felt rushed to me. It felt like it was more of about what was going to happen with Mando as opposed to really diving into Boba Fett's story. And I felt like if you wanted to do this, it would make an epic film. I want to see the story, and I would have liked to have seen it played out a bit better and more concise and more directed towards Boba Fett in a movie, as opposed to just kind of spread out over a few episodes, two or three of which I felt weren't even necessary, just to fill the gap between the Mandalorian seasons. I just feel like, was there a place for this? Absolutely.
Mhm.
Did we need to know the story of? Absolutely. But it should have been, in my opinion, in a movie instead of the TV show. So
Yeah, because I feel like, the first couple episodes, they explained what happened, the relationship between him and the Sand People, who he actually grew to grow a fondness
right,
of.
right.
But then after that, yeah, once you got to the Grogu and fucking Mando part, it completely changed.
Yeah, it
Like
was
the
just
first half was Book of Boba Fett, the second half was a that bridge, which was a little unnecessary. And I felt like even that last episode where there's that big fight scene in the town, they were showing more of Mando rather
they
than
were totally
Boba
showing. Yeah,
Fett.
yeah. Which just,
Yeah, and I mean, I'm glad it happened. I am, but yeah, it probably could have been a fucking film. Number 3 for me is The Walking Dead. So I feel like, again, like Cobra Kai, you could have made each season, because each up until probably, I mean, up until season 7 or 8, really 9 is where we both dropped off, I think. But up until then, like, it was very entertaining, them going place to place, dealing with different societies, just trying to make it throughout the world that they live in now. But once you got to a certain point, to the point we got, we were just like, this is not even good anymore. They did stray away from the graphic novels, which, I mean, we didn't read those. So, I mean, but there was so much more potential and storyline that we know could have happened. And once we heard that, we were like, and then, I mean, the story just got kind of dull. So that's the main reason I dropped off of it. But I feel like, the prison season, I feel like that is the best season of The Walking Dead. And I feel like, I think that's either 2 or 3. But that's the prime. And I feel like that right there would have made a great freaking movie.
Yeah, I think this could have been done in like maybe 3 movies.
Yeah.
The whole storyline from the graphic novel, maybe in 3 movies, possibly 4. But yeah, just a couple of series of movies and then that's it, instead of spread out. And I really would have liked to have seen, and I think this would have made an epic movie, is first of all, television just wasn't the place because there was a lot of backlash. Everybody was waiting for it and wanting and clamoring for it, but then when it happened, there was a lot of backlash when Negan shows up and just horrifically kills Glenn,
Yeah.
right? So, and then there was a backlash, but everybody knew it was coming, and
Yeah.
so why the backlash happened? I think it would have been far less backlash and just accepted more in a film than on the way it was on TV. But the storyline I really wanted to see, and I thought we were going to get it, and then we didn't when we saw the Carl's eye get shot out, and I thought we were going to go, is Carl usurping control of the group, taking it from his father and becoming more of a ally with Negan, and Negan being a father figure to him, and Carl just becoming a basic fucking badass and telling Rick to sit the fuck down and take over. I really thought they were building towards that storyline, and I was excited to see it. And then they epically just dropped the ball and failed on that
They
and
did.
went completely away from that. And that was the start of the end for me. I just thought, where are we going? Wait a minute, what are we doing? Well, like, there's so much of the story I wanted to see. So I agree with you. I just think it lingered too long towards the end. I think it could have been consolidated into 2 or 3 movies, and we could have seen that Carl storyline play out. And I think it would have just been better accepted. The back half would have been better accepted by film goers as opposed to television.
You would have had a nice little franchise.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you wanted to spin it off, you could.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, my next two, my number 3 and number 2 are going back a little ways. And I don't know if you've even heard of, I think you've heard of Heroes.
I haven't.
Oh, well, shit. The cheerleader saves the world.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Old Milo, old Jack from This Is Us was, holy shit. All right. Well, we'll get to that. My number 3 is Invasion, which was a really cool first season. I want to say it only lasted a season or two, maybe only a season, but because by the end of it, it started to really fucking drag. Like real, I think this could have been told quickly in a 2-hour movie, which would have been badass.
Yeah.
But basically, it's about this town in Florida that's going through a hurricane. And they go through this disastrous hurricane and it fucks things up pretty bad. But then shit starts happening and like weird stuff. And what happened was, you see what had happened is the hurricane was actually caused by an alien invasion. They used it as their cover to infiltrate Earth and into this area. And then all the weird shit that was happening afterwards is these aliens were hidden there now, and they were like basically infiltrating and doing all this shit, where they had invaded Earth. And the people of this community were slowly starting to figure that out. I think it would have been a really cool, quick sci-fi movie that would have an interesting premise about, an invasion hidden by a hurricane, and like they infiltrate Earth that way and everybody's caught off guard. Really cool idea. Just didn't play out well over a long season of 20 something episodes. It just, you could have consolidated the story, made a really cool sci-fi kind of, alien invasion epic movie without having to spread it out over any kind of time. But I loved the cast and I thought it was a really cool idea. It just, it didn't work as a TV show.
Yeah, it kind of falls flat, right?
Yeah, you don't need to spread it out over a TV show. It would have been an awesome movie.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's kind of how I feel about my second one, which is A League of Their Own. That's on Amazon, which is actually very good and very well done. But I just felt like, the pacing was kind of off. And I just felt like, it could have been just a much better movie. The original's a movie. Why not just make it another movie?
With a different group of girls.
Yeah. I mean, like, reboots are happening all the fucking time now. I get you're probably trying to be different and they turn it into a series. But I mean, like I said, reboots are happening all the freaking time. So why not just turn that into a part of it? And people would have liked it. Some people do like reboots, I will say. And this one was actually good. Did you ever watch any of this?
I did not.
It was good. It was good. Definitely, I didn't get through the first season, but it's definitely still on the list of continuing to watch. And no news yet about if it's getting a second season or not, because I don't feel like Amazon pushed it the proper way. So yeah, A League of Their Own.
There you go. Okay. My number 2, Heroes. Massively huge hit on NBC back in the day for at least the first season. And then it started to lose its appeal and die off only because it was very intense and the story they didn't follow through on the story as well as they could have in the lingering seasons. But it's basically about these group of people that discover that they have superpowers and are set out to save the world, but they have no idea how they're all connected. So, and they are connected. They all eventually become together. They all come together to save the world. And it starts off with save the cheerleader, save the world. And it's basically everybody has this image of this cheerleader dying and they know that somehow she has to be saved. And that was played by Hayden Panettiere. She was the cheerleader. And like I said, Milo Ventimiglia was the main guy that was the first one to try to say, I have to save the cheerleader. It was a brilliant show that they did it in comic book panels that become real life and
Cool.
And kind of, but the whole intricacy of how they were all connected and what their dilemma was of changing the world. And so this one guy, his power was he was writing the comic books. He was painting the comic books and they were coming to life because he was foreseeing the future of what was happening. And so there was a time traveler, and he was a fan of the comic books, and he was reading and he was starting to realize that all of this shit in the comic books was actually coming true and was real. And how do I connect all this kind of stuff? When we were out for the America 2.0, Jack Coleman, how I remember I said, "Oh, HRG, horned rim glasses." He was a agent of some law enforcement agency that was investigating these superheroes and trying to keep it all secret, unknowingly to him that Claire, the cheerleader, was his daughter. And then eventually finds out that or whatever. But yeah, HRG is one of the best, like, is he a villain or is he a good guy kind of characters on TV at that point. Was awesome. So I only say all of that to get to the point of, I think it would have been an epic film. They could have told this whole story in maybe a 2-hour, 2.5-hour movie, and it would have been just absolutely freaking amazing, and not run into the problem where it started to get long-winded towards the end of the season. It was massively popular. They did try to reboot it several years later with Heroes Reborn to continue the storyline. Did not work. People were not interested. Hence my probably would have been one kick-ass one-shot movie as opposed to continuing the story down the line, trying to reboot it. But yeah, I highly recommend it for anybody who likes comic books and likes like mystery and stories like that. It's a fantastic series. Greg Grunberg is in. So many big name stars are in this series. Sulu himself, is in it. Just I think that you should check it out. But my opinion, should have been a movie. Just should have been a movie.
I mean, that's how I feel about my number one too. This is again my own opinion, and a lot of people love this show. It's Amazon's biggest show out right now. But The Boys, I feel like The Boys is very drawn out. I know some, like I said, my opinion, but I just feel like it's a very interesting concept. It's so freaking interesting, especially the time period that we live in right now, where superheroes are the biggest thing, and they're not necessarily the best type of people in this show. But I just feel like, it's hard to watch sometimes because some of the episodes are just like, whoa, and I'm just like, ugh. But yeah, I got through, and I was on the second season, and I got through the first season, and I was just like, man, I don't want to watch this anymore. It's like the concept is cool and story arcs are like pretty decent, but like I don't know, man. Something about it, it was just so draggy for me. So that's why I think it would be a much better franchise or show that Amazon could do. But what do I know? What do I know? It's very successful for Amazon. So, like I said, just my opinion.
Okay, so my number one, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it could have been done better as a movie because I don't like the show. I fucking love the show. But it could definitely have been a blockbuster film as opposed to a series. They knew it because it's only 2 seasons. They had the first season and they greenlit it for a second season because they wanted to finish up the story. They knew it needed a little bit more played out to finish up the story. That just says to me, even they knew this probably could have been told in one epic film. Yeah. It's basically a crime drama about a judge who ends up having to be a corrupt judge because his son ends up accidentally killing the son of the mafia guy that runs the family in New Orleans.
Did you say the title?
Your Honor.
There it is.
Your Honor. So it's just, and then how that all plays out, and then the ramifications of the ending of that first season. And okay, wow, that happened. Now what? I love it. It's fantastic. It's brilliant cast. With Bryan Cranston and just the entire cast is amazing. Totally could have been a movie though, like a crime suspense thriller movie, like along the lines of a Seven, or I don't want to say The Godfather because nothing will ever touch The Godfather as a gangster film,
Never.
but a mafia film. But this mafia family is extremely powerful and extremely well done, and the setting is in New Orleans, and corrupt judges, which are a thing in New Orleans. I lived there a long time. I know. Don't come at me. But I just think it could have been a huge blockbuster film with the cast that they have. Even the cast that they have could have been in the film, and I think it would have done amazingly well, and you could have knocked it out over a 2-hour period instead of 2 seasons. But I'm loving it, and I highly recommend you watch it, but I would have liked to have seen this thing as a film. I think it would have been epic.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, guys, that is our top 5 segment. Let us know the television shows that you thought could have been better as movies. We want to know. Be sure to comment
For
below
sure.
in the YouTube section or at us on Twitter at JLoganAustin and at Crazy Ant CEO. We love the fan interaction. It's so fun. It's so fun to get everybody's opinions.
It is.
Now heading over to the box office recap. Last week, still the same old, man. I'm just saying. Avatar is still dominating at the box office. Got in about 16 million. Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, brought in 10.5 million. Pathin brought in 6.9 million, took the 3rd spot. A Man Called Otto is basically staying at that 4th spot with 6.7 million. And Megan brought in 6.3 million at the 5th spot.
Yes.
Now, the new movies that are coming out this week are Knock at the Cabin, which I know you're very excited about.
Super excited about.
I think that one, I want to get back to predictions because we're starting to get back to normal. I think that one is going to do under 20 million.
Really? Because from everything I'm seeing or hearing, it knocked off Avatar this weekend for the #1 spot. So,
yeah.
Of course, you'll find that out next week when we tell you. But from every indication I'm getting, it did claim the #1 spot. So we'll see.
Like I said, under 20 million. That's what I'm predicting.
Which could still claim the #1 spot.
That's what I'm saying.
Easily.
We're saying the same thing. 80 for Brady. I'm very interested to see how that one does. I'm thinking probably around 15 to 20. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out because a lot of females are going to this thing. And a lot of people are also saying that Tom Brady planned his retirement video specifically to promote his film. So that's a very interesting concept.
I honestly have no desire to see this film whatsoever.
I think it looks funny. I want to see it. It's so good. Now, The Amazing Maurice, whatever that is, also comes out. And Bosch and Rocket also comes out this weekend at select cinemas near you. Movies you can still go see are Missing Plane, Left Behind, The Rise of the Antichrist, Infinity Pool, and The Wandering Earth 2.
I hear Plane is really good. I remember us talking about it a lot during the industry news over all of last year with all the casting announcements, but I hear this is a really good high intense action film. So
Gerard Butler's the one that's doing it.
Yeah. So
it's really it's impressive to see because of all of the White House Down movies and now this one. He's really the only guy who's making standalone action films right now.
Yeah, basically.
I can't think of another one. Mark Wahlberg tried with that one that just went straight to Peacock, but
Yeah. And they're different. They're different. Liam Neeson's still out there kicking ass, making action movies, but they're all the fucking same.
It's true.
It's basically the same fucking movie with a different title every time.
It's true.
If that works for you, great. But it's exciting to see that there's an action film out there that is different, that is kicking some ass. So.
For sure. Now heading over to Top Pro, our IMDbPro Top Trending segment. Of course, Avatar: The Way of the Water is still rising high on the top trending movie.
Of course.
Top trending show, of course, The Last of Us is still freaking scaring the shit out of us, and it's just doing absolutely amazing. If you guys have not checked it out, be sure to check that out on HBO Max right now. And Anya Trove is the top trending star,
of course, from The Last of Us.
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
I really want to interview her.
Yeah.
I think she's I loved her on Fringe. I think she's fantastic now, and we interviewed her. Mark Valley way back in the day. So why not her too?
Why not?
That might not be a selling point.
No,
I don't
probably
know.
Shouldn't say that in the pitch email. Man, oh man,
he was a great interview though. He was fantastic.
Thank you so much for getting crazy with us on episode 217 of ITCAF Podcast. We got to thank you one more time for listening, watching, and getting crazy.
Yes.
Be sure to follow the social media platforms, of course, at Crazy Ant Media on all social media platforms, at ITCAF Podcast on all social media platforms, and of course, everything's OKP on Instagram and Twitter. That is our mental health podcast. The second episode is out now, titled "Loss: The Loss of a Loved One Due to Death or Disconnection." A lot of good stuff in that one. If it's very heavy, man, it gets very heavy. So we just want to prepare you if you do go and listen to that episode.
Yeah, a lot of laughs in this episode, a lot of cries in that episode, a lot of tears.
It's good to have the balance.
Yeah.
Good to have the balance. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast anywhere you listen to your podcast: Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Stitcher, and so much more. If you're watching the video on YouTube, be sure to hit that like button below, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for all the latest and greatest notifications coming out of Crazy Ant Media. And be sure to visit our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can start rocking the latest and greatest Crazy Ant Media gear. We got shirts, we got hats. Be sure to follow us on social media so you know when our promotional sales go live. That's very important, man.
Yes.
And I believe the next one is Valentine's Day, and I think it's going to be like 25% off.
Yeah.
So be sure to follow us.
And we still got free shipping through tomorrow.
Yeah.
So if you order today, you can get free shipping. So
all the good stuff.
Do that.
All the good stuff. Well, man, oh man, like we said in the industry news, we named our top stuff that we're looking forward to. I mean, you really didn't say which one you're most looking forward to. Is it the Amazon?
Superman Legacy.
Yeah.
For me, the reason I became a filmmaker, the reason that I love comic books and film and all of that world, be it whatever side you're looking at, the comics or the movies or whatever, was Superman the movie.
Yeah.
So the idea that we're going to get a Superman Legacy movie from someone who is a huge Superman fan and also has that love and affinity for that original film, I just think means all kinds of good stuff. And I'm super excited to see what they do with the character and have him reestablished as the Superman we all know he should be.
For sure. So, I mean, I'm more excited for the television side just because I'm scared about the film side. I'm not going to lie, just because of previous abuse. But yeah, I mean, the Green Lanterns and the Amazon one. So I'm really excited, man. I'm excited to see what happens. It looks like they have a good thing set in motion. So I'm very, very curious, very excited, anticipating all the good things, man. I just want to see good things come out of DC and Warner Brothers, to be honest. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the one thing that I liked most that they said is that nothing will be greenlit and or go into production until they have a completed script that they approve of, meaning they're not just going to rush shit together and throw it out there to try to catch up. They are going to take their time. This is going to be a marathon, not a sprint, and that they're building this from the ground up slowly, which is what they should have done in the first place instead of just trying to quickly catch up with Marvel. That's was never going to happen, and they failed miserably at that. I trust that Gunn and Safran, when they say that it's a marathon, they say it's going to be a slow process and they're going to build properly. I believe them, and I think that's why it's going to be successful.
For sure, for sure. Well, you guys know we have to end every episode by honoring and loving the one, the only, going to go see 80 for Brady, Oprah! Just saying.
Oprah should be in the DCU.
She should.
She should be part of canon.
For
Oprah
sure.
should be canon in the DCU.
Exactly.
That's all I'm saying.
The real question is, how do you like book club but are not excited for 80 to Brady? I just put that in my head. I'm like, they're the same movie, basically.
I mean, they are, which is maybe why I'm not so excited about it. I'm more excited about book club 2 than I am about
That's
80.
Why I was confused. I was like, what? How does that make sense?
Maybe I feel like, 80 for Brady's that gap film in between the book club
movies,
what I'm saying. I just don't need it. I don't need it.
2023, the year for gap films.
Yeah, like we don't need to see those ladies in anything other than the second book club. But it's,
goodness. Guys, thank you so much for getting crazy with us on episode 217. Like we said, be sure to follow us everywhere. Be sure to have a great weekend, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Adios.